Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. Mankind has become the pinnacle of life on Earth. Most of us don't give a second thought to our humble origins. Rising out of the ocean depths, crawling onto the muddy banks of a primordial Earth, something else evolved. Alongside the dinosaurs, the birds, and the mammals, something hardened by nature and weathered by time. Cold-blooded, skin scaly and dry, sprawling legs, claws and spikes, found everywhere from oceans, rivers, and lakes, to jungles, forests, and deserts. Up among the trees and down amidst the grass, a creature older than time itself. A widespread group of over 6,000 species. Lizards belong to the group Lacertilia, part of a group known as squamates, reptiles with horny scales or shields, and mobile upper jaws relative to the rest of their skull, most having outer ears, and gaps in their skull for muscle attachment points. Lizards are distinct from other squamata, like snakes, who once descended from them. And the tuatara, the uniquely primitive lizard-like reptiles of New Zealand, superficially similar but closer to the ancient turtles than the modern lizard. Lizards first evolved 220 million years ago, during the Triassic period, alongside the early dinosaurs with which they are so often associated, stemming from the same common ancestor that would eventually evolve into mammals, with species during the Cretaceous periods growing enormous, reclaiming the seas, with mosasaurs closely related to the monitor lizards of today stalking the ocean depths, the largest of which, Hinosaurus, may have been more than 50 feet, attacking sharks and other large aquatic reptiles. Prehistoric terrestrial lizards also found to grow to huge sizes, with Megalania of Australia being another relative of the monitor lizards of today, up to 23 feet in length, living as late as 30,000 years ago, possibly encountering the first aboriginal settlers. Lizards today come in all shapes and sizes. From the smallest lizard, the Brookesia microchameleon, barely over an inch long in its adult form, to the largest, the Komodo dragon, at over 10 feet in length, with the majority being around 5 to 15 inches long. They are found worldwide, on every continent and major landmass, outside of the bitter cold of Antarctica. They're spread out across most islands and atolls, anywhere warm enough for them to sustain bodily activity, as they are cold-blooded or ectothermic, producing very little metabolic heat, instead remaining around the same temperature as their surroundings. In order to be active, feed, move, and reproduce, lizards therefore have to stay in warm areas or in sunlight in order to elevate their body temperature, with lizards in colder climates commonly becoming dormant during the winter season, hiding in a small crawl space or digging a small burrow to protect it from the colds and opportunistic predators. They're known to be aquatic, terrestrial, and arboreal, both herbivores feeding on leaves, flowers, roots, and shoots, frugivores feeding on any and all types of fruit, and carnivores feeding on anything between insects, spiders, grasshoppers, larvae, centipedes, to carrion, snails, frogs, rodents, and snakes, even other lizards. Most lizards share the same basic body shape, quadrupeds with 4 sprawling legs, sprinters more than long-distance runners. A few species, such as the collared lizard, also able to run as a biped for short distances. All lizards have a horizontally aligned spine and neck, with commonly large heads, counterbalanced by a tail comprised mostly of muscle and fatty tissue. All have a multitude of teeth, many even having teeth along the roof of their mouths, with only chameleons and agamids not able to continuously replace their teeth. Lizards are identifiable by their commonly superior eyesight, the chameleons notably having eyes that independently move, leading to extensive visual communication between members of the same species. By body language and color. Agamas, known for their bright, colorful patterns, even using markings only visible under UV light, as many lizards can see far beyond the spectrum visible to humans, with hearing ability varying greatly from species to species. Not as good as most mammals, but superior to that of snakes, instead found to be more sensitive to ground and air vibrations, often remaining extremely still when feeling the slightest presence of another animal. Lizards can be divided into two known suborders: Iguania, including all iguanas, chameleons, helmet lizards, agamids, collared lizards, leopard lizards, chuckwallas, spiny lizards, anoles, and tropidurid lizards, distinguished by being mostly arboreal, with either clawed or opposing fingers and toes for better gripping, commonly arched backs, varying skin texture of knobs and spines, to both deter predators by the sight of it, impress females, as well as break up their outline as a form of camouflage, and having primitive fleshy tongues, some even having scales, though chameleons are unique within the group by commonly having long sticky tongues that can be projected over 2 times the length of the chameleon itself to catch a flying insect at great speeds. They are also among the most prolific types of lizards, with the genus Anolis having nearly 400 species worldwide. Second among the suborders of lizards is the Scleroglissa, including all other forms of lizard, making up the broadest suborder of lizards, further divided into 3 infraorders: Geckota, including all forms of gecko, and the legless, flap-footed lizards. Geckos are widely known for their remarkable ability to crawl up vertical walls, even upside down, thanks to unique adhesive toe pads, made up of several rolls of tiny bristles arranged in skin flaps, or lamellae, producing significant adhesion able to support the weight of nearly 300 pounds hanging upside down, each bristle less than 1/10 the thickness of the smallest human hair. Geckos are also unique among lizards for being primarily nocturnal, also displaying significant night vision, up to 300 times as sensitive as that of the human eye. Geckos are also rare among lizards for their ability to significantly vocalize, using a variety of chirping sounds for social interaction and courtship. Also included in Geckota is the family of Pygopodidae, or snake lizards. Though they are not believed to be directly related to snakes, they, much like glass lizards, exhibit no limbs. The second infraorder, Amphisbaenia, is also highly similar, made up of 5 families of what are commonly known as worm lizards, lacking external limbs, but are commonly pink in color with scales arranged in rings, more closely resembling earthworms. And the final infraorder, Autauartoglossa, including skinks, alligator lizards, slow worms, gallywasps, glass lizards, girdle-tail lizards, beaded lizards, Gila monsters, race runners, whiptails, plated lizards, spectacled lizards, night lizards, monitor lizards, and wall lizards, also known as true lizards, with snakes evolving out of this group. Most also have similar forked tongues used for taste and smell, constantly bringing air particles back into the mouth into what is known as Jacobson's organ. The infraorder is also unique in having the only venomous lizards, with the Gila monster, the beaded lizard, and all monitor lizards, or varanids, having mild venom glands in their lower jaws, typically used for defense, with the possible exception of the larger monitor lizards, such as the Komodo dragon, biting its prey, then waiting for the venom and infection to set in, with only a handful of monitor lizards in the Philippines being frugivorous, all other monitors preferring large, meaty prey, with the smallest monitor, the short-tailed monitor of Australia, being 10 inches long, with the average size of most monitors being around 3 feet. The largest, the Komodo dragon, has even been known to stalk, attack, and kill humans. Found only in 3 small islands of Indonesia, they are unique among lizards for having a high metabolic rate, unidirectional pulmonary airflow with air sacs similar to birds, allowing them quick sprinting and longer dashes, and high intelligence, having been shown to be able to use strategies such as acting as decoys to lure other animals such as crocodiles away from their nests, while their partner feeds on their eggs. The true lizards, being the most common lizards found throughout Europe, often seen as the archetypal lizard, a family encompassing hundreds of species across 37 genera, most being small, under 6 inches long. The largest, the Gran Canaria giant lizard, being a rarity at up to 31 inches in length. All members being highly similar in form and function, with the species distinct only by their highly varied patterns and colors. Skinks are seen as highly similar to true lizards, but with no pronounced neck and smaller limbs. A few species lacking legs altogether. They are the most prolific family of lizards, with over 1,500 described species worldwide. Skinks are also most known for a love of digging and burrowing, most spending their time underground, digging out tunnels, using their tongues to sniff out and track their prey, being active hunters of insects. Unlike snakes, lizard shedding commonly takes place little by little. The hard scales, unable to expand as the lizard grows, discarded individually or in larger flakes rather than all at once. The only exception being the alligator lizard, shedding the entirety of its skin with regular intervals, with most lizards continuously growing throughout their lives. Due to their small size, many lizards employ different methods of self-defense. Some are quick sprinters, reacting quickly to the slightest movement or vibrations, fleeing into dark corners and tight spaces where they can't easily be pursued by larger predators. Most rely on camouflage, their color patterns and rough skin textures mimicking their surroundings, with both chameleons and agamid lizards having the ability to change color to blend into their environment or to regulate their body temperature by turning darker during the day in order to absorb more daylight and become more active. This is accomplished through 3 layers of specialized cells underneath the surface of their otherwise transparent skin. The top layer shifting the amount of yellow and red pigments visible, the second layer blending blue and white, the third adjusting the overall darkness of the color. Some also employ hard bites and even mild venoms. The slow-moving Gila monster, lacking fangs, it instead bites down and chews to inject its venom. Others are covered in sharp spines and thorns, such as the Australian thorny devil, also employing a false head of soft tissue on the back of its neck to distract predators from the more vital organs when under attack. Similarly, worm lizards have a tail that closely resembles the head to confuse predators, leading to the popular image of the two-headed serpent. Most geckos, skinks, and a few other lizard species can also discard or shed their tail when threatened, a process known as autotomy or self-amputation, wherein the discarded tail portion continues to wiggle as an automatic muscle reflex, distracting predators while the lizard itself flees, with the gecko eventually regenerating it as a new cartilaginous rather than bony tail, often displaying significant discoloration from the original limb, while the ground skink, which stores food preserves in the tail portion, often returns to the discarded tail later to consume it, in order to regain part of the sacrificed supplies. Other lizards also rely on threatening displays, such as hissing, or various methods of making themselves appear larger, such as the frilled lizard, unfurling a shield of skin around their neck to make it appear larger. Or the blue-tongued lizard, sticking out its large blue tongue when threatened, to confuse its pursuer. Many are also highly territorial, using similar methods to scare off other lizards from their area. Their territory is often dominated by males, encompassing one or several females. Most lizards have fixed mating seasons, larger lizards often mating once a year, smaller lizards mating more frequently, and can be both polygamous and polyandrous, while a few lizards, such as whiptail lizards, geckos, Komodo dragons, and rock lizards, can employ asexual reproduction, or virgin conception, effectively reproducing as clones. Mating is often preceded by a period of courtship, wherein the male courts the female, either through offering the female prey, gestures and dances, or colorful displays. With many lizards using dewlaps, or small inflatable skin flaps around their neck, to impress their mates. Mating is often brief and fleeting. After which the male often leaves to find other mates. The female can then lay between 2 to 50 eggs, with uncertain survival rates as most lizards abandon their eggs from that point on, open to attack from predators, including birds, snakes, and other lizards. Except for some skinks and glass lizards, who vigilantly guard their eggs. Incubation periods among lizard eggs vary greatly, anywhere between weeks to months. The young lizards emerging from the eggs looking much like miniaturized versions of their parents. A few species don't lay eggs, however, instead being viviparous, holding the eggs within their bodies until hatching, at which point they emerge as live births, such as nearly half of all skinks. Lizard lifespans vary greatly, with chameleons often living 1 to 3 years, others such as wall lizards between 5 to 10, with geckos and iguanas lasting into their teens or even 20s. A Mexican beaded lizard known to live nearly 34 years in captivity, with older specimens believed to exist in the wild. The word lizard comes from the Latin word lacertus, meaning arm, coming from the Proto-Indo-European term for to bend or twist, as lizards commonly identified by their sprawling quadruped walk, elbows and knees pointing outward. Throughout history, they have been associated with any number of symbols, with different cultures attributing different qualities to different kinds of lizards. In ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, the lizard representing all things multiple or plentiful, due to their prevalence throughout Egypt and Africa at large. The Dogon tribe of Africa, on the other hand, using engravings of lizard as protection from evil spirits. The Babanki tribe, similarly holding the lizard as a representation of household tranquility. While among the Bamum in Cameroon, it is often seen as a fertility symbol, used to wish well upon newlywed couples and expectant mothers, with the Romans also associating lizards with death and resurrection due to their winter hibernation. While in Christian mythology, lizards have been seen as significantly more ambivalent, often associated with the evil and darkness of the serpent or snake, or with the representation of contemplation or ecstasy, stemming from their fondness for basking in the sunlight, appearing deep in thought. With some indigenous cultures, primarily Native American and Australian Aboriginal, also worshipping the lizard as a symbol for patience, or a trance-like dream state, also appearing as a symbol for New Age culture today. While in modern culture, lizards have instead been depicted as slow-moving, often equally slow-witted and emotionless creatures, if not outright cruel. due to the cannibalistic tendencies of some lizards, as well as their callousness regarding their offspring. Feared for their inhuman appearance and cold skin, and the flickering forked tongue of some, associated with their dark and primitive beginnings, often likened to dinosaurs with which they have a distant relation. Appearing in sci-fi horror movies as the archetypal monster attacking mankind, or seen as vermin and pests, much like insects. Despite their worldwide prevalence, their diet of insects and other pests, and meager threat, with even the venomous species of lizards not being lethal to adult humans. Only the Komodo dragon found to be outright dangerous. In many tropical countries and among indigenous cultures, lizards are also often cooked and consumed, either as a fried treat or a full meal. Some today are also popular as pets, particularly different species of iguanas and chameleons, and some smaller monitor lizards, being very docile and peaceful creatures, kept either in enclosed terrariums or even left wandering around their owners' homes. The lizards are notoriously difficult to train effectively, most species far less responsive than mammalian pets or even birds, and seldom exhibiting any reciprocation of affection, though often claimed to be easy to maintain. Many lizards, with iguanas in particular, having very particular requirements and needs for both habitat and diet, including regular long-term exposure to sunlight and water, and particular foods, leaves, and insects, with many new lizard owners neglecting their needs, leading to their premature deaths, while some species have grown to flourish in human environments. Geckos often found around human settlements and homes throughout tropical countries around the world, some even displaying an affinity to humans. Many lizard species are today endangered, particularly larger tropical lizards, mostly due to climate change, shrinking habitats, and human intervention, as divisive as they are prevalent, being among the oldest animals around, surviving natural disasters and mass extinctions over hundreds of millions of years. Though we consider ourselves the dominant species on the planet, they existed here long before us, and will continue to exist long after we are gone, remaining one of the last wild animals on Earth. At the ends of the Earth, in the farthest reaches of the world, past jungles and forests, grasslands and hilltops, deep in the unforgiving cold, in the freezing waters, rocky shores, and icy slopes. An animal unlike any other battles the elements, born for the seas, where their brethren were born for the skies, thriving in places few would survive, fish eaters and fast swimmers, flightless birds, hunters of the southern seas, kings and emperors among them, rulers of the ice and snow. All penguins are semi-aquatic, spending more than half their lives in the water, being excellent swimmers, save for occasional accents of color. All penguins are predominantly black and white in appearance, black on their backs and heads, white across their abdomen, an appearance frequently called a tuxedo. This pattern constitutes a form of camouflage known as counter-shading, the blacks blending in with the dark seas when seen from above, the whites making them hard to distinguish against the bright sunlight when seen from below. Only found in the southern hemisphere, penguins are among the few species of animal particularly prevalent in Antarctica, withstanding the harshest cold found on Earth, with temperatures reaching as low as 50 below 0 Celsius, in conditions that would be lethal to even a heavily dressed human being. Though contrary to popular belief, many penguin species also exist in temperate areas of South America and Oceania, with the Galapagos penguin even existing near the equator, with the northern penguin species typically being smaller than the ones found in Antarctica. The smallest, the little blue penguin, standing a mere 13 inches in length, being found along the coastlines of New Zealand and South Australia, while the largest, the famous emperor penguin, stands at 3 feet 7 inches and is found only in Antarctica itself. Penguins first evolved from other prehistoric birds around the death of the dinosaurs 60 to 70 million years ago, with the fossilized remains of early basal penguins found in New Zealand and Antarctica, with dense flippers, adapted specifically for a semi-aquatic life as opposed to flying. Their bones flattened, broadened, and fused together to form a single stiff surface, covered in short scale-like feathers. Penguins soon also grew larger than other birds as they were no longer confined by aerodynamics and by the need to keep a low body weight, some modern penguins becoming as heavy as 90 pounds, with solid, dense bones to overcome buoyancy, as opposed to the hollow bones of flying birds. Certain prehistoric penguins have been known to become the size of a full-grown man, such as the Anthropornis existing around 40 million years ago. Penguins today consist of 20 different species, which can be divided into 6 different genus. They can be distinguished by size and a wide array of subtle markings. Aptenidites, or great penguins, consisting of the king penguin and the emperor penguin, known for their large size, bright yellow-orange necks, bills, and breasts. They are the most primitive penguins and exist mainly around the coasts of Antarctica and its surrounding islands. Pagaseus, or brush-tailed penguins, known for their distinctive formation of tail feathers unique to the 3 surviving species, existing mainly around Antarctica but extending further north than the great penguins. Eudiptula, or little penguins, made up of the 2 smallest species known, the little blue and the white flippered penguin, found mainly in New Zealand. Spheniscus, or banded penguins, consisting of 4 species, distinguished by their large black band patterns running down the length of their bodies, as well as their loud braying calls, with most found in South America, as well as 1 species, the African penguin, in southernmost South Africa, and the Galapagos penguin, found only in the Galapagos Islands far off the coast of Ecuador. Megadiptes, a genus only consisting of the yellow-eyed penguin of New Zealand. Its closest relative, the white taha penguin, having become extinct sometime during the past 700 years. And the Eudiptes, or crested penguins, the most widespread family of penguins, found across Antarctica, South America, New Zealand, and the Indian, Pacific, and Atlantic Oceans, known for their colorful appearance, with prominent yellow crests and red bills, and are the only penguins to display any sexual dimorphism, with males being somewhat bigger and having larger bills than females, and are also known to crossbreed, producing hybrid species. While on land, penguins often appear clumsy, waddling along in a hurried pace, easily toppling over, their high center of gravity and small feet necessitating the use of their stiff tails to support their upright stance, a stance developed to minimize their exposure to harsh winds and cold weather. Penguins use their flippers to maintain balance while walking, leading to the popular depiction of penguins as childlike or physically awkward, only occasionally sliding on their bellies across the snow, a movement known as tobogganing, or jumping with both feet across steep or rocky terrain. Their true element is the water, however, with their small webbed feet pushed far back to further streamline their bodies, depending instead on their flippers for underwater locomotion, using them in water much like flying birds use their wings in the air. Penguins usually swim up to 8 miles per hour, able to reach burst speeds up to 24 miles per hour, They are also able to leap as high as 10 feet straight up in the air from the water surface to land on ice shelves, with many penguins also leaping in and out of the water to take breaths while not losing forward momentum, a practice known as porpoising, and is particularly common among smaller penguins who stick closer to the surface, often hovering around 50 to 60 feet deep, while larger penguins can dive even deeper, the emperor penguin in rare cases having been recorded going as deep as 1,800 feet, for as long as 27 minutes in a single breath. As penguins often take in large quantities of seawater, they have developed a unique way of dealing with the high salt content, thanks to a specialized supraorbital gland located just above the eyes, filtering out the salt, excreting as a brine solution through the bill, often constantly dripping from their nasal passages, appearing similar to a runny nose, even occasionally sneezed out. Their keen eyesight has also been specifically developed for the extreme differences in lighting conditions with full color vision. Their pupils can expand up to 300 times its most constricted size in order to see in the murky waters, and is also believed to be able to sense even ultraviolet light, using the light and the position of the sun as a navigational tool during the day, as well as finding a mate, as the bills of some male penguins reflect ultraviolet light. Their sense of smell has also been shown to be significant compared to other birds, with the olfactory lobe of a penguin's brain being substantially larger, in order to smell areas dense with prey. All penguins are carnivorous, feeding mainly on fish, squid, krill, and other crustaceans. Penguins typically hunt by diving and swimming rapidly, catching their prey in their mouths. The bill of different penguins varies in shape with their diet. Species that specialize in fish tend to have longer, thinner bills, to aid in grasping and holding their prey as well as reaching inside it, while penguins that specialize at eating in smaller crustaceans such as krill have shorter, broader bills, to take in more prey in a single bite. Their mouth is further lined with small, thorny spikes facing the throat, even their tongue having a rough, spiny texture, to further aid in holding and swallowing their prey alive. Penguins often have very large hunting ranges, from a short 10-mile radius in areas abundant with prey, to up to nearly 1,000 miles for emperor penguins who hunt for larger fish. Though most penguins stick close to the shoreline, some finding themselves far from sea can also seek out seal holes and other cracks in the ice to gain access to the water. Their smooth plumage also preserves a layer of air for buoyancy, and to insulate the penguin from waters so cold. Most other animals would suffer severe hypothermia from swimming in it, with specialized feathers covering every inch of the penguin's body, closely spaced, short and broad with tufts of down on the feather shafts themselves, protecting the penguin's skin from the water. Penguins have, as a result, more feathers relative to its body surface than any other bird, with some species having over 100 feathers per square inch of skin. Penguins often seen preening or cleaning their feathers from water and dirt, while a gland near the base of their bill secretes an oil to aid in the insulating effect of the plumage. All penguins shed their feathers once or twice a year, usually after breeding seasons, known as molting, to replace worn-out feathers that have lost their insulating abilities, during which the penguins are highly sensitive to moisture and cold temperatures, staying on land for the duration of the molt, fasting until completion, instead relying on fat reserves accumulated for months prior to molting. The new feathers emerge underneath the old ones, pushing them out in patches, lending them an unusually scruffy look, as the old feathers will not fall off until the new ones are fully in place. Their large size further limits heat loss as well, by reducing relative surface area to their body mass. And they're also known to shiver and huddle together in groups to generate additional heat, particularly over the harsh Antarctic winter months, aided by an additional layer of fat, which in emperor penguins can grow to be over an inch thick. Penguins are also able to control blood flow to their extremities at will, able to reduce the amount of blood that gets cold by decreasing the heart rate while diving, as well as using complex countercurrent heat exchange system while on land, where the blood vessels carrying out fresh blood out into the limbs transfers their warmth to blood returning to the heart, thereby conserving heat. While some, like Galapagos penguins, have the rare issue of often overheating, causing them to periodically ruffle their feathers to release heat, while the African penguin and Humboldt penguin have bare patches on their legs and faces where excess heat can dissipate. Penguins are highly social animals, though sometimes traveling and hunting in smaller numbers than individuals. All penguins are colonial, with most gathering over mating season, forming large colonies known as rookeries, which consist of a few hundred individuals, as with the Gentoo penguins, up to hundreds of thousands, with the king, macaroni, and chinstrap penguins, covering areas of hundreds of square kilometers. The only exceptions being the yellow-eyed and fjordland penguins, who breed as individual pairs. As a result, penguins have a wide array of visual and auditory communications, with different calls and postures and flapping of their wings indicative of either welcoming greetings or antagonistic displays to ward off unwanted individuals or avoid conflict. The different vocalizations of penguins are divided into three categories, the contact call being the loudest, able to be heard nearly a mile away among the larger penguin species, and is used to identify and greet colony members. The display call being the most complex call, used among partner penguins, and conveys territorial, sexual, and individual recognition information, as all penguin calls are also individually identifiable, allowing mates to recognize each other by sound. The last being the threat call, the simplest of all calls, and is used to defend the territory or to call attention to a nearby predator. Breeding season takes place every 12 to 16 months, with only the emperor penguin breeding during winter, while most others breed during summer, during which penguins form monogamous pairs, usually changing only because their mate from the previous year fails to return to the same nesting area. The location of the rookery area typically stays the same year after year, and is often farther inland than their normal hunting grounds, sometimes by dozens of miles. With the rockhopper penguins particularly known for returning to the same spot on the same day year after year to mate. Males arrive first to establish a nest area, often fasting to focus their entire attention on the preparation of the nest site. Nesting sites vary greatly between species, from forest lands and bushes, to rocky shores, to flat inland ice shelves. Most build nests with stones or twigs, crucial in the courtship of becoming females. There are three distinct types of courtship displays. The ecstatic display, also known as trumpeting, comes first, where calls and head swinging indicates the male has established possession of a nest site and warns other males to stay away. This is then followed by the mutual ecstatic, where the female reciprocates the ecstatic display to show her interest, facing her mate, doing the movements either alternating or in unison, establishing a pair bond. The mutual ecstatic display also continues throughout egg incubation and chick feeding. The last stage is bowing, where one or both partners lower their heads, pointing their bill at that of their mate, followed by a low hiss or growl, which strengthens recognition between partners and resolves any conflict. Before mating, one mate bows deeply to the other to indicate their intentions. Their mate does the same before consummation. The mating act itself is typically very brief. The female can then lay 1 or 2 eggs, while the emperor and king penguins instead opt to incubate their single egg on the top of their feet, fitting under a loose fold in the lower abdomen, where a featherless patch known as a brood patch is filled with blood vessels, transferring heat from the body to the egg. Both partners share in incubating the eggs, taking turns while the other searches for food to bring back to their mate. With the exception of the emperor penguin, where the father is solely responsible for the egg. After hatching, the chicks are similarly looked after by both parents, one staying behind while the other hunts and brings back food, regurgitating into the mouth of the chick and their mate. As the chicks are born small and defenseless, either naked or with a thin brown, white, or gray plumage, that changes only after the penguin reaches adolescence, with the Adelaide chicks undergoing their first molt after 2 months of age, while the king penguin's chick only molts after a year, with all penguins taking an additional 2 to 7 years to reach maturity. Most penguins are long-lived, with lifespans often around 15 to 20 years. The mortality rates among chicks and younger penguins are often high due to the extreme conditions many penguins are exposed to, with over half the king penguin chicks dying of starvation during the harsh winter months, and emperor penguin chicks having an even higher mortality rate of 90% in their first year of life. Penguins are often killed by predators such as leopard seals, fur seals, sea lions, sharks, or killer whales. Prey on the eggs and chicks of penguins that strayed too far from the rookeries or are too sickly or too weak to defend themselves. The word penguin itself originated as a term for the now extinct great auk of the North Atlantic. Though only distantly related to penguins, they were similar enough in appearance that when the first European explorers traveled south, they named them after the same Welsh term. Pen gwyn, meaning whitehead. Penguins quickly became popular among explorers and sailors for their apparent lack of fear of humans, as many Antarctic species lack land predators. Their upright stance and curious demeanor often leading to humanized depictions in art and culture, often depicted as friendly and comical, with an exaggerated sense of dignity despite their physical limitations. Frequently made use of as a non-threatening or child-friendly logotype or mascot for companies and organizations, and often appearing as animated characters in children's shows or as popular plush toys. Though since their discovery, with the first explorers on Antarctica and their surrounding islands, many new predators were also introduced, such as dogs, rats, and cats, that soon targeted the easy prey of unsuspecting penguins, as well as being hunted specifically by humans for both their meat and their eggs, with many indigenous peoples originating penguin hunting. Continued by Western fishermen and explorers who found penguins to be an easy source of food due to their inability to fly and lack of fear of humans, as well as penguin skin used to make items of clothing such as caps and slippers. Their dense feathers often used as stuffing. The oil found in the body fat of penguins also once considered valuable, with penguin hunting for oil particularly popular in the Falkland Islands, once known for their sizable population of penguins, with 5 different species often nesting on the island. Over 2.5 million penguins are estimated to have been killed over just a 15-year period during the early 1900s. A frenzy ending only with the introduction of cheaper chemical alternatives in 1918. Penguins are to this day threatened also by competition for food with humans, particularly overfishing in the South Pacific greatly affecting nearby penguin colonies, contributing to steep declines in penguin populations worldwide, with many penguins also getting caught in fishermen's nets and drowning as a result. Additional documented climate changes have also been shown to lead to a loss of the habitat for our Antarctic penguins, particularly reducing emperor penguin populations. They require large expanses of thick sea ice for their enormous rookeries. While the main source of food for many penguin species, the krill, has also significantly been reduced due to the melting ice caps, reducing algae, the krill's own source of food. The population of chinstrap penguins has declined by more than 50% as a direct result of global warming. Oil leaks additionally poisoning thousands of penguins. Crude oil getting caught in their feathers reducing their insulating abilities and leading to hypothermia. And though today most penguins have been declared protected or endangered, illegal harvesting of penguin eggs continues as well. Often sold as a delicacy with their unusually large yolks considered particularly desirable. Penguin meat also still finding use as bait for fishermen in the South Seas. Despite many legal sanctions against any form of killing of penguins, despite their popularity, it seems the future does not bode well for the penguins, finding themselves in a shrinking world of melting snow and ice, now facing the same threat of extinction so many of their forebears failed to evade. But until that day, they remain on the shores of our beaches, on the cold and unforgiving Antarctic ice shelves, and in the oceans. One of the last remaining wild predators on Earth. Deep in primordial forests, in the dark jungles, or in the freezing Arctic cold, in the heart of darkness, where the elements take over, where nature dwarfs man, if you hear a rumble, the crackling of ice, or the breaking of twigs, followed by an echoing roar, like a chill down your spine, you'll know it's there. A lumbering giant, a fearsome hunter, a mythic beast. Giants of the wild. Bears are the largest predators on land. The largest Kodiak bear recorded having nearly 3 times the mass of the largest tiger, at over 2,400 pounds, measuring over 10 feet in height when standing upright. While the smallest, the sun bear, is just shy of 5 feet tall, weighing as little as 44 pounds. Though most are in fact omnivorous, with the brown bear notably being the most omnivorous creature on land next to humans, found to be able to eat a wider variety of foods than any other wild animal, making them equally highly opportunistic, eating anything from leaves and berries, fish, deer, and livestock, to human waste and carrion. While the polar bear is the only exclusively predatory bear, with the panda being mostly herbivorous. Bears can be found throughout Europe, Asia, and the Americas, often in forests, but also in mountainous regions, grasslands, and tundra, as well as in the Arctic. They are caniforms, members of the family Ursidae. Though despite sharing habitats with many other caniforms, such as wolves, foxes, and wild dogs, bears are more closely related to seals than any other dog-like animal. They evolved from primitive raccoon-like ancestors over 30 million years ago, diversifying into a wide range of prehistoric bears, flourishing around the same time as the first humanoids started to emerge 5 million years ago, many of which reaching giant sizes to correspond with the existing megafauna of mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. Prehistoric giant short-faced bear, notably reaching heights over 15 feet, surviving as late as 11,000 years ago. Bears today are divided into 8 species. The sloth bear, found only in India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Unusual for bears, they are mainly nocturnal and are distinguished by their long, shaggy coat forming a distinctive mane, and their highly specialized lower lip and palate, lacking several front teeth, used to suck out insects such as termites out of burrows and nests. The spectacled bear, also known as the Andean bear, is the only bear found natively in South America. It is considered the largest terrestrial carnivore in South America, though notably only 5% of its diet consists of meat, the rest being fruits, leaves, and nuts. It is distinguished by large beige or ginger-colored markings across its face and chest, often around the eyes, giving it its name. The giant panda, notably unrelated to the red panda of the weasel family, The giant panda feeds almost exclusively on bamboo stalks. They can today only be found in a few mountain ranges in central China. Easily recognized by its highly distinctive black and white coloration pattern. The sun bear, also known as the honey bear, found in rainforests throughout Southeast Asia, distinguished by their comparatively small size, thin collar patch of white or yellow fur, light-colored face, and its exceptionally long tongue used for extracting honey and termites. The remaining 4 species of bears are closely related, all found in the family of Ursus. These include the mighty polar bear, found only north of the Arctic Circle. Known for their immense size and white color, they spend most of their time in the water, hunting their preferred prey of seals. Also included is the Asian black bear, also known as moon bear, distinguished by a large white patch on its chest. Powerful front legs, specifically adapted for climbing trees, and highly aggressive behavior, despite being largely an herbivore. It is found in Central and Southeast Asia. The American black bear, found in great numbers throughout North America, known for being highly intelligent and peaceful, generally avoiding any human contact. Lastly, the brown bear, the most widely distributed of all bears worldwide, spread out over North America, Russia, China, Europe, and Asia Minor. It is the most famous and iconic of all bears, known under a variety of names for each of its many subspecies, distinguished by their large size, a distinctive shoulder hump and sloping concave back, and their fur ranging from a reddish-brown to a brown-gray, as well as their unusually long claws, adapted for digging and mauling as opposed to climbing. Bears today come in a wide range of shapes and sizes. All are highly robust with large rounded frames, with a massive solid torso, powerful muscular shoulders and neck, a short vestigial tail, and comparatively short stocky legs, walking on their hands and feet as opposed to their fingers and toes, unlike most other caniform, distributing their weight toward their hind limbs, leading to their lumbering gait. Though bears are commonly quadrupeds, they are also highly capable of bipedal standing and sitting to reach higher objects, to get a better vantage point, or to appear larger when threatened, either by another animal, another bear, or humans. Despite their build, bears are also highly efficient runners and swimmers. Brown bears easily able to reach speeds of up to 30 miles an hour on land, though they are still slower than most canines and felines. The species name of the polar bear itself, Maritimus, stemming from its semi-aquatic nature, as they are great swimmers. Several species of bear are also at least partially arboreal, climbing after prey or feeding off of the tree itself, even taking shelter on the treetops and branches overnight. Only the largest species, the polar bear and the brown bear, not able to climb trees. All bears are covered in a warm layered coat, consisting of 2 primary layers. The dense undercoat, made up of many short hairs close to the skin, and longer outer guard hairs to trap air and keep dirt and water out of the inner layer. The fur is either brown or black, with only the panda and polar bear being significantly white. The polar bear having unique guard hairs made out of hollow, translucent bristles, trapping the air inside for insulation against the freezing waters of the Arctic, while their dense white underfur is what gives them their color, yellowing with age. The primary sensory input of bears comes from their superior sense of smell. Though the olfactory lobe of a bear's brain is comparatively average, their elongated snout contains a highly developed nasal cavity, with the total area of their nasal mucous membrane inside being over 100 times the size of a human's, giving bears up to 7 times the sense of smell of a bloodhound, enabling the bear to sense prey or danger from up to 50 miles downwind, even able to detect another animal's passing up to 15 hours after the fact. Augmented by what is known as a vomeronasal organ, a cavity inside the palate of the bear filled with highly sensitive sensory neurons, detecting airborne chemicals and pheromones. The eyesight of bears is typically acute and believed to have near full-color vision, on par with that of humans for most species, to aid in foraging for colored berries and fruits. The polar bear having evolved additional low-light eyesight to be able to see its prey underwater. Though bears are commonly nearsighted, shown to have difficulty distinguishing shapes at a distance, while their hearing is highly developed. All bears typically have very large, curved, non-retractable claws on each of their paws, which, coupled with their immense strength, enables the bears to easily grab and tear at any prey, no matter the size, and large, powerful jaws, easily capable of crushing flesh and bone, as well as chewing tough vegetable matter, bark, and roots, with large, pointed canines, which it uses to crack open trees to access honey and insects inside, and flat molars, reflecting their omnivorous nature, contrary to common perception. Bears are generally active mainly during the day, roaming large territories or migrating between nearby areas, often centered around a fixed den, usually a cave or burrow, providing shelter from harsh weather, rivals, and opportunistic predators. Though they are seldom strongly territorial, bears can be found protective of their home ranges when threatened or when raising cubs. Highly solitary, bears are only rarely found in pairs or smaller groups around mating season, or when raising their young, as well as in rare cases of seasonal bounties, such as during salmon runs, only rarely coming into conflict with other bears. Though bears rarely ever back down from a confrontation, preferring to stay their ground, whether with a rival or another predator. In colder climates, bears often go into a state commonly called hibernation over the winter months, during which the bear lowers his bodily functions and sometimes also body temperature, not to expend any unnecessary energy, with its heart rate dropping in some species significantly, requiring no food or water, nor do they need to urinate or defecate, building up fat reserves during the summer and autumn months in order to survive. Though this is not considered true hibernation compared to other hibernating animals, as bears can easily be awoken, giving rise to the familiar expression to wake a sleeping bear, an ability thought to have evolved out of the necessity of the female bear to care for and protect her young, as hibernating bears commonly give birth during this time. Bears rely mainly on body language, an array of specific vocalizations for communication, as well as territorial markings. In particular, known for scratching or tearing at trees to leave marks to be found by other bears. Vocalizations include moanings for mild warnings, barking to raise alarm or stemming from excitement, huffing during courtship or between mother and cubs, growling as a stronger warning, roaring for outright intimidation, and humming, employed by cubs as a means of signaling the mother of their position. All bears exhibit significant sexual dimorphism, with males of all species often considerably larger than females. The age in which the bear becomes sexually mature varies greatly between species and subspecies alike, from sun bear females maturing as young as 2 years of age, to brown bears, where males may not mature even until 9 years, only then becoming large enough to rival older males. Mating season typically occurs once a year, for a short period of time as the female goes into estrus, for between a few days for pandas to several months for American black bears, emitting powerful pheromones detected by nearby males. Bears are generally polygamous as well as polyandrous, many males mating with many females, only the brown bear being serially monogamous, staying with a single mate for an extended period of time, to ensure the success of conception. The courtship of most bears is often brief and simple, consisting of initial cautious greetings, the male first approaching the female, signaling his intent by loud huffing, at which point the female reciprocates, inviting the male for mating. The mating act itself is brief, lasting between 30 seconds to 5 minutes, but repeated often until conception occurs. With most bears, this occurs in spring or summertime, when food is still abundant. The fertilized egg not taking hold for the first few months, allowing the bear time to gain weight in anticipation of the pregnancy, thanks to a process of delayed implantation, wherein the fertilized egg floats freely inside the female's uterus, only attaching to the uterine wall and developing further in winter. In hibernating species, if the female hasn't gained enough weight prior to dormancy, the egg never attaches and is instead reabsorbed into the female's body, foregoing the added risk of a pregnancy while she is malnourished. Bear pregnancies can last between 2 to 5 months for pandas, brown bears, polar bears, and sun bears. Up to 7 or even 8 months for sloth bears, Asian and American black bears, and spectacled bears, whose cubs typically develop faster. Most litters consist of 1 to 6 cubs, older females typically giving birth to large litters, and first-time mothers only having single births. Bear cubs are born blind, toothless, and with a minimal amount of fur. They weigh less than 2 pounds, even for the largest bears. The panda cubs being the proportionally smallest infants of any placental mammal, weighing only 3 to 4 ounces. Breastfeeding until strong enough to follow the female in search of food. A period that can range from 6 months to up to 2 years depending on the species. The cubs then remain in the care of their mother for an additional 2 years after weaning, during which the reproductive cycle of the female is suppressed, only resuming after the cubs leave her care. The mother teaches its cubs how to forage for food, what foods are high in nutritional value, how to hunt, and how to fish, as well as how to defend themselves and where to den. The cubs learn by following and imitating their mother, as well as by playing among themselves. The mother bear is typically highly protective of their young and can appear highly aggressive to any perceived threat, with threats including not only other large predators such as tigers and wolves, but also other bears. The brown bear notably practicing infanticide, either by males to force the female into another reproductive cycle to bear its own cubs, or for cannibalism. Bear lifespans typically range around 20 to 25 years, only in rare cases in the wild and in captivity exceeding 35 to 40 years, due to their immense size and role in the food chain. The mortality rate of adult bears is typically comparatively low at around 10%, most only succumbing to disease, accidents, or conflicts with other bears, with the tiger of Asia being the only predator known to regularly attack and prey upon adult bears. Bears have long been a significant symbol in human history, many cave paintings of prehistoric man portraying conflicts with bears, both worshipped as animal deities, as well as feared as an omen or sign of oncoming death, the very word bear originating from an early Germanic word for brown, initially a euphemism used out of superstition. Ancient peasants fearing that uttering their local word for bear would summon it, simultaneously symbols of both danger and power. Their solitary and reclusive nature and reluctance to approach humans also initially shrouded them in mystery, spawning many misconceptions of their nature. Bears are now believed to have given rise to several myths of giant woodland or mountainous creatures, including Bigfoot and the abominable snowman, the Yeti, stalking the wilderness of North America and the Himalayas respectively. Bears have also since been a staple of folklore and fables across the globe, often featuring in fairy tales and epic poems as magical or peaceful creatures of the woods, extending to Christian legends of bear taming by saints in the Alps, as a recurring motif used by the Church to symbolize the victory of the Christian faith over paganism. Today, bears are often used as a national symbol for countries around the world, from the gentle Chinese panda to the imposing giant of the Russian bear. Bears have seeped into the public consciousness, frequently depicted as not only mighty predators, but also as often less intelligent, gentle giants in children's shows and cartoons, as well as being closely associated with stuffed toys since the early 20th century, through the teddy bear, named as such following an incident of then U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt hunting an American black bear, later mocked for refusing to kill it after capture, deeming it unsportsmanlike, prompting toy manufacturer Morris Mitchum to make a toy based on a bear cub, dubbing it Teddy's Bear, soon becoming immensely popular as a traded gift between children and adults alike, with sales of teddy bears today exceeding $1 billion per year. Though bears once existed across the globe, they are now relegated only to a handful of areas, scattered over a few dozen countries. All but the American black bear and the brown bear are today listed as vulnerable or endangered, with many subspecies of brown bears risking extirpation, some, such as the Marsican brown bear, existing only in dozens, in part due to deforestation, with encroaching human settlements everywhere, as well as a worldwide spread of agriculture destroying their natural habitats. But mostly due to hunting, the added danger of bear hunting often seen as the main attraction of it, leading to many bears turning nocturnal specifically to avoid hunters, forced to rely more on vegetation and nocturnal animals than their usual prey, eventually giving rise to far-reaching disruptions in the ecosystem. Hunted bears are often repeatedly wounded to slowly bleed to death, as hunters often struggle to kill a bear instantly. Also using massive bear traps, maiming and mutilating the bear, though often not enough to kill it outright, instead incapacitating the bear until the hunter returns for the trap, or until starvation. The severed heads and coats of bears are then often turned into trophies, hung on walls for display. The Inuit of Canada and Greenland significantly relying on polar bear meat for sustenance. While in China, bears are often hunted in large numbers or even farmed for their gallbladders, containing ursodeoxycholic acid, or UDCA, believed to aid in treating rheumatism, poor eyesight, and gallstones, despite the widespread prevalence of newer and cheaper artificially produced options. Though often seen as dangerous, brown bears, polar bears, American black bears, sloth bears, having injured and even killed many throughout history, most avoid all contact with humans, being shy and easily frightened. They are nevertheless often demonized when incidents do occur, with several notable cases of lynch mobs gathering to drive out and kill bears who have attacked humans. As a result, conservation groups often struggle to raise awareness and sympathy for the bears in areas where they are most threatened. It seems bears worldwide are now facing an uncertain future, with little room left for the once mighty animals. But until then, they remain in our forests and mountains, in our grasslands and tundras, in the cold harshness of the Arctic, and in tropical jungles. As among the last remaining giants of the wild. On land, at sea, on every continent, in every ocean but the Arctic. From the plains of Africa to the jungles of South America. From the farthest reaches of the known world to our backyards, long before civilization, before the history of our ancestors even began. Weathered by time, hardened by evolution, unfazed by successors and rivals, the oldest living reptile remains. the word turtle is commonly used for all members of the order of Testudinus. There exist 3 distinct terms for different kinds of turtles. The term turtle itself mainly applying to semi-aquatic families of the order, with tortoises being the primarily terrestrial species of turtles, while terrapins are members of a diverse group of smaller turtles living in brackish water, though members of all 3 groups are highly interrelated, spread out over 14 families, with over 300 species, herbivores and carnivores alike. Turtles can be found worldwide, south of the Arctic, north of Antarctica. They range greatly in size, from the largest, the leatherback sea turtle at 6.6 feet long, weighing up to 2,000 pounds, to the smallest, the speckled padloper tortoise, at a mere 3 inches, weighing less than 5 ounces. Turtles evolved over 220 million years ago during the late Triassic period, stemming from a common ancestor of crocodilians and the dinosaurs, evolving ribs that curved over its own back for protection, eventually forming a soft protective shell both over and under their bodies. Its skull then simplified, losing its teeth in favor of strong, powerful, bony beak-like jaws that are a direct extension of the skull itself. By the early Jurassic period, turtles were largely the same as they are today, only differing in size, such as with the archelon, which grew to be over 13 feet long, hunting squid in the vast oceans of the late Cretaceous. All turtles since then share the same basic body shape and key characteristics, the most prominent of which being their large protective shell, which in all species consists of extensions of the turtle's skeleton, with their shoulder and hip girdles existing inside their rib cage as opposed to outside. The ribs have themselves been flattened and fused to form a solid surface, the only exceptions being the shells of soft-shell turtles and the leatherback sea turtle, which are only partially bony, instead being made mostly of soft, oily leather-like skin. The shells are an extension of the turtle's ribs and spine, which fuse together during embryonic development to form the final enclosure, enveloping the entire body of the turtle, except for the limbs and the head. Additionally covered in hard scales known as scutes, the shell is used for protection against predators and to protect the body from harsh environmental conditions. The turtle's shell is made up of 2 distinct parts, joined together at the sides by what is known as the bridge, where the 2 halves are fused. The top convex dome structure is known as the carapace, which can have any variety of shapes and sizes, often high-domed and irregular in shape among tortoises to make them difficult to grip and bite, while water-dwelling turtles and terrapins often have slimmer, more streamlined shells to glide better underwater. The bottom, the flatter part, is known as the plastron, which among some turtles and tortoises also includes a hinge to close the head and neck opening, as turtles, tortoises, and terrapins can all withdraw their limbs and even their head inside the shell for protection. All turtles are classified into 2 main suborders. The more primitive Pleurodira, who contract their necks to the side, including African side-necked turtles, Madagascan big-headed turtles, and a wide array of South American and Australian turtles. And the more common Cryptodira, who draw their necks in by contracting it under their spine, leading to a radically different structure of their vertebrae, including all snapping turtles, sea turtles, pond turtles, box turtles, river turtles, leaf turtles, roof turtles, pig-nosed turtles, mud turtles, and soft-shell turtles. Like other reptiles, turtles are exotherms and are dependent on the surrounding water or air temperature to regulate their own body temperature. As a result, turtles are often found basking in the sun during the day, to elevate their body temperature to be able to dive in lukewarm waters or remain active until dusk. In colder climates, turtles also go into a state of hibernation over the winter months, known as brumation, during which they can go entirely without food, slowing down their body functions, with some species of sea turtle even able to slow their heart rate down to 1 beat every 9 minutes. Like all reptiles, however, they frequently wake up to drink water. Most species of turtles are freshwater turtles, found in rivers, lakes, and swamps worldwide. Many have evolved webbed feet ideal for paddling in the water, alternating left and right, frequently coupled with long claws that aid the turtle in climbing out of the water and onto riverbanks and floating logs, to bask in the sunlight. A few species, such as the pig-nosed turtle, have fused digits, forming true flippers instead, as they rarely stay long out of the water. While several other species traditionally seen as semi-aquatic additionally have periods where they are mainly terrestrial, such as Asian leaf turtles, which spend only their juvenile years in rivers and lakes. Freshwater turtles and terrapins can be found to feed on anything from aquatic plants to insects, snails, and fish. Though as protein is essential for young turtles, juveniles of any species are typically purely carnivorous. 57 species of turtle are strictly terrestrial, using their clawed feet to traverse a wide variety of terrain. They can be found in forests, deserts, grasslands, even urban environments. Their heavy shells and short, stocky legs greatly inhibiting their speed, however. With the fastest recorded tortoise walk, a leopard tortoise, being a mere 0.6 miles per hour. Generally herbivorous, these turtles feed mainly on grass, leaves, weeds, and flowers. There are only 7 species remaining of sea turtle, including the green sea turtle, the loggerhead sea turtle, Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, olive Ridley sea turtle, hawksbill sea turtle, flatback sea turtle, and the leatherback sea turtle, found across oceans worldwide, as they often migrate huge distances between nesting sites, known as rookeries, and feeding grounds, where they feed on fish and marine invertebrates such as jellyfish and sponges. While some species with more powerful jaws, such as Kemp's Ridley sea turtle and the olive Ridley sea turtle, specialize in shellfish, though the green sea turtle feeds mainly on algae and kelp. All sea turtles have developed well-articulated fins for locomotion underwater, using their forelimbs to propel themselves, while their hind limbs assist in steering. Sea turtles also have a uniquely adapted respiratory system, with more red blood cells and hemoglobin than other turtles, as well as large amounts of myoglobin throughout their muscles, and massive lungs, all making them capable of storing enough oxygen to stay submerged for up to an hour straight on a single breath for leatherback sea turtles. Sea turtles can also employ a unique system of anaerobic respiration, allowing the turtle to, in effect, breathe even without oxygen when required, instead breaking down glucose directly on a cellular level to convert food into energy, with some turtles able to withstand an additional 30 hours in an environment devoid of any oxygen. Some species of turtles, both sea turtles, terrapins, and freshwater turtles, have also developed means of extracting oxygen from water. Similar to gills, though most often using a pair of sacs known as bursae, or finger-like extensions known as papillae, near their cloaca, the combined digestive and urogenital opening of the turtle. Sea turtles also have glands near the eyes, tongue, or nostrils to expel excess salt taken in while swimming or breathing, appearing as tears similar to crocodiles. Most turtles have additionally excellent low-light vision, with an unusually large number of rod cells in their retinas of their eyes. Their color vision ranging the spectrum from nearly ultraviolet to full red, enabling them to see clearly both in dark muddy waters and in twilight conditions on land. As most tortoises are primarily diurnal or crepuscular, active mainly during the day and dusk, though they are often nearsighted. All turtles also have a highly developed sense of smell. Their sense of smell stems from nerve-filled bumps under their chins, known as barbels, enabling them to pick up scents not only in the air but in the water as well, with males additionally using their sense of smell to detect the presence of nearby fertile females emitting powerful pheromones, while their hearing is limited as they exhibit no outer ear or eardrum, instead merely sensing airborne vibrations and changes in water pressure, alerting them to the presence of nearby predators. The skin of a turtle is commonly either leathery, worn down by water, or dry and rough, as with tortoises. It is comprised of non-overlapping scales that, unlike the scales of a snake, do not shed at once as the turtle grows, instead sloughing off small sheets or individual scales as newer ones emerge underneath, often aided by long hours of basking in the harsh tropical sun, or sometimes, as with the South American river turtles, aided by other turtles biting and pulling the old scales off. The turtle's skin is also highly sensitive to physical contact and heat, even able to feel the slightest touch on their shells. The mouth and beak-like jaw of a turtle is highly specialized to its diet, and often has a powerful bite relative to its size. Some turtles having flatter biting surfaces to crack the shells of crustaceans, while others, such as the snapping turtle, have famously sharp beaks, easily able to bite through any prey, as they are primarily carnivorous. They also use their bite in self-defense or to protect their territory, often appearing highly aggressive and easily capable of injuring humans. Sexual dimorphism between turtles vary between species, though most commonly the female is distinguished by being somewhat larger, a flatter plastron, occasionally different color eyes than the male, and having a shorter tail with a narrower base, as while the tail of a turtle serves no purpose for females. In males it houses the reproductive organs, and experiences significant growth as the male reaches maturity, extending past its back flippers or legs. Most turtles can take between 2 years, as with most tortoises, to 50, as with green sea turtles, to reach maturity, with maturity linked to body size rather than age for some species, due to their significant lifespans, most turtles living between 20 to 50 years, with some going far beyond, having the longest lifespans of any vertebrate, as their internal organs do not gradually break down as with other animals, their cells continuously renewing their entire lives without any sign of degradation. An Aldabra giant tortoise in India, having been reported to have reached the age of 255 prior to its death from complications following an infection. Typically highly solitary, only a few turtles gather in any significant numbers, and only during migration or mating season, forming groups of males and females known as bales. Mating season occurs once a year for most freshwater turtles, terrapins, and tortoises, often around spring or early summer, with some tropical and Mediterranean species mating throughout the year, with sea turtles sometimes only mating once every 2 to 4 years. Mating is often preceded by simple courtship rituals. Ready-to slider male swims around the female, fluttering the backside of his long claws around her head, directing his own pheromones to the female. If she sinks to the bottom, she is accepting his invitation. While most tortoises, the female is bullied into submission by highly aggressive males, ramming, biting, and butting the female, before she partially withdraws into her shell, allowing the male to mount her. While sea turtles mate in the water, several males competing for the attention of a single female, displaying the length of their neck as a sign of physical superiority and desirability. Though all turtles are generally polyandrous, the female seeking out and mating with several males to ensure genetic diversity, storing the sperm from many males in her oviducts prior to building a nest, even years if new suitable mates aren't found in succeeding seasons. Mating is often very brief, initiated by the male, mounting the female and wrapping his tail underneath hers, after which the female turtle returns to their chosen rookery, returning to the same site every season. Kemp's Ridley sea turtle and the olive Ridley sea turtle forming large migratory groups of females, known as aribadas, all coming ashore to lay eggs. As sea turtles, terrapins, and freshwater turtles lay their eggs on or near a beach, while tortoises commonly lay their eggs on hillsides, often facing south to be exposed to as much sun as possible, the specific spot chosen by careful sampling of the soil, the female feeling the ground with her snout to ensure the soil is not too dense or humid to sustain the eggs. Once there, she begins to dig an egg chamber, a long and arduous process for most turtles, sometimes taking hours to complete, followed by the laying of the eggs. Turtles typically lay a clutch of anywhere between a single egg to hundreds at a time, depending on the species. The most laid by hawksbill turtles, which can lay over 200 eggs at a time. Many species laying between 1 to 9 clutches per season, a few weeks apart. The eggs are typically proportionally small, soft, and leathery, and round in shape, while tortoise eggs are often harder, adapted for a drier climate and nest site, more like chicken eggs. The eggs are then buried in sand or mud and left to incubate, after which the mother returns to her daily routine, and the eggs and coming hatchlings are left to their own devices. It takes the young turtles between 60 and 120 days to hatch, depending on the species. The temperature of the eggs determines gender. Higher temperatures of incubation trigger male hormone production in the embryos. with the average temperature for most nests being a constant around 30 degrees Celsius, with varying temperatures sometimes leading to malformations and collapse of the eggs. While inside the egg, the turtle is bent over, folded in half over their still soft plastron, eventually straightening until their heads are pressed up against the shell. A bony protrusion at the end of their snout, known as an egg tooth, breaking through once they've consumed the egg yolk. The egg tooth eventually either falls off or wears down as the turtle grows older. The hatchlings then emerge as miniature versions of their parents. Tortoise hatchlings often scatter after hatching, looking for food and a source of drinking water, while sea turtle hatchlings and many terrapins and freshwater turtles instead head straight for the nearest body of water, where many species depend on thick beds of seaweed for food and to protect them from predators, spending most of the first 5 years of their lives close to shore. Though some, such as the red-eared slider hatchlings, cannot enter the water until 3 weeks after hatching, as their plastron has yet to harden fully, often seen with a visible crack where the turtle was bent inside the egg. The mortality rate for young turtles is extremely high, with less than 1% of all hatchlings surviving their first year. As their shells have yet to harden fully, they are even slower than their adult counterparts, and they are small enough to be picked on even by small predators, such as lizards, snakes, birds, dogs, and jackals. The word turtle stems from an alternate English spelling of the French word tortoise, itself stemming from the ancient Greek word for something from Tartarus, the mythical underworld, as tortoises and turtles were once believed to have hailed from the land of the dead. Turtles have long been important mythological figures in cultures around the world, often as a figure of wisdom and longevity, as well as more ambiguous figures of deceit and treachery, owing to their dual nature of living on both land and sea. African myths often portrayed them as cunning tricksters and clever heroes, while in ancient Egypt, depictions of the Nile turtle were used as magical talismans to ward off evil and to protect one's life and health. In later dynasties, also known as a symbol for evil, ritually sacrificed and speared as enemies of the sun god Ra, while their bodies were dissected with parts used for medicinal and cosmetic purposes, later worshipped as one of 4 entities to hold spirit in Chinese mythology, together with the dragon, rhino, and phoenix, in particular used as a military symbol, mirroring the fierce mythical dragon. The tortoise is also an integral part of their creation myth, the flat plastron and domed carapace mirroring the ancient belief of a flat earth and domed sky. In Hindu mythology, the turtle is also integral to the formation of the cosmos, as the world is thought to rest on the backs of 4 elephants standing on a giant world turtle. Similarly, among Native American traditions, the world is formed by mud kneaded by the Great Spirit creator Maheo, which is then so heavy only the grandmother turtle can support it on her back. While more modern depictions have centered on the turtle's slowness, perseverance, and perceived ingenuity, often part of children's fairy tales and fables depicted in books and cartoons. Today, the popular image of turtles have led them to becoming a flagship animal for conservation efforts, often used as a symbol for animal rights and environmental causes. Turtles themselves are currently also used to promote significant ecotourism in many countries, particularly sea turtles, with a common source of ecotourism being observing and aiding hatchlings get from their nest to the ocean. Turtles are also common today as pets, particularly in Western countries, kept either outdoors or confined in aquariums and terrariums, due to the perception of turtles being easy to maintain and their long lifespans. Though often many turtles are unintentionally mistreated as the tradition is new and there exists comparatively little documentation on how to care for turtles, with the shells further complicating dealing with their health concerns. This has led to many turtles either dying due to complications or being kept in unsuitable environments, not getting enough sunlight, or due to mating, as many owners unwittingly try to crossbreed species with disastrous results, and as turtles are notoriously picky with their nesting sites. Many impregnated turtles in captivity refuse to nest and instead suffer complications for not expelling the eggs. As with most reptiles, turtles also carry salmonella bacteria in their bowels, making it easy for owners to contract salmonellosis, leading to many countries adopting strict regulations on what turtles are legally to be sold to prospective pet owners. Turtles are also a common delicacy in a number of cultures, turtle soup being highly popular in many cultures, particularly in Asia, leading to ever-increasing amounts of turtles both hunted and farmed for their meat. The plastron from turtles is also considered valuable in Chinese traditional medicine, in the creation of the medicinal dessert guilingao, sold in the millions across Southeast Asia. Fat from turtles is also used extensively in Latin America in the production of cosmetics, often marketed as crema de tortuga, or cream of turtle, with additional threats to turtles being climate change and deforestation. The acidification and pollution of oceans, lakes, and rivers in particular threatening many turtles, as well as overfishing threatening the diet of sea turtles. While tortoises and freshwater turtles endemic to rainforests are threatened by significant loss of habitat, tortoises being particularly vulnerable, with over 70% of all tortoise species almost gone. 27 species of turtles today are on the very brink of becoming extinct, with over 240 additional species being threatened or critically endangered. Turtles may be beloved worldwide. It appears that despite their long legacy and supposed longevity, their time is quickly running out. Only the most intensive conservation efforts may save them, but even then it may be too late. Once this was their world, we may only hope it will return to them once again, as the mighty turtle perseveres, on land, at sea, on every continent, in every ocean, as one of the last remaining wild animals on Earth.